that account has $186,289. There was a zero tax impact on that as well. Article 6 is to raise and appropriate $75,000 to be placed into the Somethingville High School roof fund, previously established. That account currently has $70,038 in it. And this is just adding to that. We talked about the flat roofs and the need for those repairs. That has a 6 cent impact to the tax rate, and that is it.
Any further discussion on any of these going on? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the 2017-2018 default budget.
I'll motion to approve the 2017-2018 default budget.
Okay. Heather, second.
A second.
Second by Heather. Any discussion?
So if we were, I know it's not as likely this year to end up in a default budget, but are there things that would have to be moved around, or could you continue to spend as is, given the dollar amounts are
So
similar?
if the default budget was put into place, what we would do administratively, and hopefully you would charge us to do that, would say, go back to your budget, and based upon now knowing the number, bring us how you're going to propose to spend that money. Because a default budget, again, has numbers that are carried from last year's budget, so there could be lines that we no longer really need, but they had to be carried. So we would go through that process.
Okay,
If
so
the default budget was loaded.
Okay, that's my main concern, is just if the money's in transportation now, it
And we
doesn't
didn't
have to
need
stay
it,
in
right,
transportation.
we can move those things.
Russ, you had mentioned, and I'll need a little background information on this in terms of decreasing the default budget and what the liberty of the board is in terms of looking at that as an option.
Excuse me, thank you. The board, so there is a formula, and I have the background information, so I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of it, but it's a pretty detailed explanation. The formula in which we need to set the default budget. So there are certain specific things, special ed, other costs, contractual costs that we need to carry forward to ensure that if our budget would ever failed at the polls, that we can still operate our facility, our municipality. Right now, because we took out things in fuel, oil, and electricity, we were able to lower our budget, but since they were in last year's budget, the default budget remains higher. So you could, as a board, make a determination to say, we're going to lower the default budget by $50,000. So I guess the idea would be, so if the taxpayers really felt that this budget we're proposing is wrong, they could vote that down, the default budget goes into place, which is less $50,000. And then do what we just talked about, giving us the opportunity to go back and do that. You don't have to do that. We've done the default budget as required, right? It's hard sometimes to hear when you're in the audience, if we had a budget that came in at $2 million and our default budget was $3 million, I mean, how do you go wrong, right? So this is a circumstance in which this came about this year by us really trying to lower our budget. It's not something that has ever happened in the past to my knowledge, at least here in this district. And so what you choose to do with that, you don't have to do anything, but you do have the luxury, if you wanted to lower that default budget. You wouldn't have to be specific about saying, I'm lowering it by taking $50,000 out of this line. You could say, we're just going to lower the default budget by. And so I don't know if that's more of a political, or if there's some logic there or not in this case.
Thank you.
Are you suggesting that we
No,
change?
I'm not at this time. I feel that some of our constituents and also those present at the ABC meetings did provide some good feedback, which has been implemented to help bring us to the point where our proposed budget is below our default budget. And I hope that there is some confidence amongst the constituents that through administration and negotiations of our highest line items of salaries and insurances, that we are working diligently. The staff is working, the department heads and administration is looking at that budget. So I think that this should be quite satisfactory, that our proposed budget is below our default budget. And certainly next year, we can possibly consider with a newer default budget projecting, being lower than what our even current default budget is, that we could look at that.
Thank you.
I am not suggesting an across the board. I think what we need to recognize too are the proposals that are in the air right now with the changes of administration at the federal and state levels, and what impact they might have on our numbers of pupils that we have in the school, and also our required programming, and also our state and federal funding.
So next year's default budget will be based upon
This
this
year.
year's budget. So the default budget number after the election goes away if the budget is passed. So I would, is there any harm in making equal the default budget and the actual budget?
Right, no.
Okay.
I mean, you're playing, I guess you're just evening the playing field. So if your default budget, if your budget this year gets voted down, your default budget gets voted in, so your budget next year now is higher, right? Because you're taking the default budget, which is higher. So
Well,
now you're working on that budget to build your default budget for next year, which is a higher base
Yeah.
budget,
Right.
right?
Okay.
So
But
that-
if
there's a
that
little-
number were changed to be the budget we're asking for, and then our default budget, if those two numbers
Same.
were the same.
You're starting from zero.
Yeah.
I just think you want to be careful of doing something for and a reason to do it. Right? Are we doing it just to do it, or is there a purpose behind doing it?
Well, part of this discussion is to
Right,
have
to have
this
that.
discussion.
Right. Well, and I think my feeling is those of us in this room know about the budget, and the people who watch the feed from the video know, but the voter at the polls won't know. And so I think it would cause more confusion to have it be the exact same number. I think the demonstration that we've actually cut the cost, and that's why that's higher, is better on the paper, because the 20 people in this room versus the 1,000 people we have voting is a big difference.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Any opposed? Any questions? No. Motion carries. Thank you. And that is it for action items.
It is.
Made it.
Moving on to information items. Sunapee Central Elementary School Facility Committee update.
So, we left last time, again, we talked about the survey. I asked folks to think about sort of next step. We talked about putting a board meeting down there. I announced tonight that my superintendent's forum will be down at the elementary school. Perhaps we could look at our next February meeting be at the elementary school. Over vacation, I worked with Bill Royce. We actually went to the library and we set up sort of what it would look like to do that, and so we could do that. And I would, I guess, ask permission. I think we talked about opening up that school on a Saturday or a Sunday and getting people in, which I think is a good idea. But to tell the story of that school and what we face day to day, you have to do it with kids in the building. And it's really hard to do that and bringing people in the building while you're conducting business. So I thought about potentially looking at taking some kids and maybe an adult to put together a movie of a typical day at Sunapee Central Elementary School, maybe using some fifth graders there and maybe some high school kids that are in some other technology classes, and maybe having somebody like John or Heidi have some overseeing and helping out, and putting together a short little movie and then being able to promote that. I think that gives a much truer, richer look at really what that building looks like when it's occupied by 300 people.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think we should have approached Ms. Doyle while she was here and said, let's go with it. I would also make the suggestion that perhaps the Sportsmanship Council or soliciting some other volunteers of kids that would come on a Saturday to give the tours through the school. I noticed this year when we did kindergarten orientation, we actually had fifth graders take us on a tour through the school. which was fantastic. They worked in teams of 2, and some were more shy than others, but they really came out, and it was a great opportunity for the parents to ask questions. So something similar on a Saturday I think would be great. And I know the Sportsmanship Council is probably a good place to go.
So my feeling would be that if we could do the movie now in the winter time, push that out into February and March, and then use that to help promote an open house. And I think in the springtime, we potentially could get some more people into our building. Perhaps if some of the older people who may not be going out in the winter time, and maybe those are some of the people we want to have time in as well. Who don't generally have an opportunity to get in our building. There may be some people coming up from, back from wherever they go in the winter time, and maybe we get some of those people as well.
Yep, no, I definitely think later in the spring is a good idea, especially with that hill.
And at some point before the year is out, this board then needs to have a conversation of next step. Where does this go, and are we going to utilize some money from our capital reserve fund to potentially go out and look at soliciting an architect to come in and coming in and doing some work? I understand we have some work done, we have multiple options of work done, but there still needs to be updated, whether those versions are even viable options at this time, because one of them talks about being complete off-site back here, which is now, we know we're going to be at that site, we know it's a renovation addition type of thing.
Does our committee need to meet again to have this?
Before we have that discussion here publicly, yes, we'll pull together as a committee. But I'll do some of this movie stuff and get some of the PR stuff going.
Yeah.
But for now, could we agree to have our February meeting at the Central Elementary School? Do we have a consensus of that?
Yeah, I'm
Do
okay with that.
you want to have a motion? Or do
We could.
I think we have a general consensus.
Yep. Can we just toss it out quickly to the audience if everybody's comfortable with going to a new place? And
We'll advertise and make sure it's
Posted.
widely known. Cookies and water and mouse.
Is there any more discussion on our facility committee updates? No?
I'm good.
All right, let's move along to strategic planning update.
Just very quickly, strategic plan committee met before the vacation. The surveys were formulated. They went out yesterday. If you are a parent, we have your email address. The link was sent to you. You can take the survey. It asks you to sort of rank order our strengths, rank order our challenges. It went out to students grades 5 through 12. It went out to all our teachers. If you're a community member, we put it in the local newspaper, in the shopper. You can go on our website, click the link, and rank your strengths and challenges that are there based upon the focus groups. So we left that open. We asked for responses to come back by January 20th. I have a phone conversation with John Kennedy tomorrow, which we will be planning our next strategic planning date and stuff.
I have a comment about the survey, the online survey. We had devised the questions for the survey through the strategic planning focus groups, and that was compiled and succinctly presented in the survey, which was a good thing. The format of the survey is a little bit confusing, having gone through that process and then now seeing the survey. And that is, as a community member, if you were to go to our website and click on our survey, you would look at our survey and see that there are 5 different entities that you are to prioritize as a matter of importance, and yet there's a scale for each of them, and it's confusing as to whether you rank each of them on a scale of 1 to 5, or if you prioritize each of them, giving each a different value. So you might want to consider clarifying that it's instructions.
And I'll have to go back and look at it, but I think it says it in the instructions above, and it won't let you, the survey won't let you click on one more than once. So if you click on one and try to click on one again, it won't let you. It's going to ask for a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
And it does say that, but you could rate each item you could rate every item as a 1.
No. It won't let you.
So I tried it, and it does let you. So we might want to, no?
When you go to hit submit, it won't.
Turns all red.
Right.
Was that for the community survey?
Yeah, for all of them. They're all set up.
So you can probably
Okay.
enter that data.
You can put it in.
But when you
you go to
submit,
submit, it won't
okay,
submit.
As
okay.
soon as you click it, it turns the page on.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you submit it, then,
Right. It
okay,
tells you
good.
who you thank you for,
Yeah.
just in case.
Yeah.
I did have one question. Since we issue emails at grade 4, right, is there a reason we just excluded that one grade, why we didn't do all or start at 6?
So we had a conversation regarding the validity of information. Would kids be able to take that on their own? Would adults have to really be able to stand over their shoulder and talk about the explanation? We talked about perhaps doing it in the classroom. And then how, again, goes back to the validity of how much, the quality of that information that we have right now in third, fourth graders. So it wasn't, we just said no, but we said, well, okay, if kids are going to give us some input, if the children are going to give us input, perhaps that input will be a little more validated from grades 5. I'm good.
All right, manifest.
I will motion to approve AP Manifest 2017-12 and -13, as well as Payroll Manifest 2017-13 and -14.
Motion made by April, Heather, by second.
I second.
Second by Heather. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I go back 1 second? Sorry.
No, press pause.
Please.
Sure.
If you do not have the ability or do not wish to take the survey from the community member on the website, and you'd like to come to the SAU, we'll give you a paper copy if you'd like. Sorry.
And have you done any posting at places like Sunapee Cove? or-
It's gone out in the newspaper, I know, and we're continuing to push from there.
Motion on the floor to approve the manifests. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we're to our public forum portion. Anybody from the audience wishing to address the school board on any matter? Can you start the microphone? Say your name. Hands with us. Hearing none? Agenda for our next meeting.
For evaluation,
Evaluation,
we will have food service,
presentation.
presentation.
Will we be
And
fed?
sampling? Yeah.
I can make that part of the presentation, yes. We will, Kelly, we're after the deliberative session, correct?
Yep.
So we could have anything that we need to follow up on the deliberative.
Okay. Members, anything that you guys want to add?
Are we looking at a follow-up, or do you have the needed information required for a follow-up on the community drug discussion, a drug reduction and survey?
So the community conversation piece, we met before vacation. We actually had a couple students come in and join our meeting, which was really insightful. We felt a little guilty because we were like, what about this? What about this? What about this? Like 2 parents just drilling through it. But it was good. It was really good information. I felt like we won't tell anybody, but we didn't know. So Chief Cahill had a spaghetti supper here over break. The school is planning to bring in some folks in the springtime to do a presentation for our students and for our community. I believe Chief Cahill is looking at doing something around spring prom season as well. So again, it's just to continue the conversation. And I believe we had the assistant principal, her name escapes me, from Royal come and join us. And so they have now been brought into the conversation as well, which is great.
I'm sure we'll have some more things to add to the agenda.
Yeah, well, I mean, so we'll do a strategic plan and,
All right, and we have no,
we do not have.
non-public issues, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will motion to adjourn.
And I second.